Hello, 7th graders. Well, today it's time to deep think. We're going to be learning about poetry. What is poetry? Does anybody have an idea? Well, that's a great start. In addition, we'll be learning what a theme is in poetry and the many different types of themes. We'll be learning about a stanza. What are stanzas? Does anybody know that? Well, that's also a good start. And we'll be learning about poetic tone, as well as a couple of different types of poetry. Furthermore, poetry uses words that have sound, imagery, and figurative language to send a message. So today we'll be going over all of these things, and at the end of the lesson, you'll be filling out a short evaluation worksheet, and you'll be able to write your own short poem and then post it to the discussion board. So moving on. So there are different types of poetry. I've just picked 3 here to briefly discuss, but primarily we'll be talking about rhyme verse. The first one's acrostic. This says kind and caring, encouraging, loyal, loving, and young. And if you look up here, the K-E-L-L-Y spells Kelly. So that is an acrostic poem. The next poem is concrete. It forms the shape of an ice cream cone and then has words on it that relay a message. The last one is rhyme verse, which we'll be talking a little bit more about today. Little Miss Muffet, she sat on a tuffet, eating her curds and whey. There came a great spider who sat down beside her and frightened Miss Muffet away. So those are just 3 types of poetry that we'll be talking about today. So what is a theme in poetry? Well, a theme is the central message. What the author wants you to learn or know, or a broad idea about life. It's usually not stated blatantly, but it must be inferred within a poem. It doesn't absolutely have to be, but it's nice that you can portray what you're feeling or the message you want to give to the reader within your poem. So as we discussed a little bit earlier, there are different types of themes. I've listed a few here. There could be love. There could be vacationing on a beach. What about family? Would anybody like to write about family in their poem? Yeah, definitely. Nice to see those hands. Well, we can be writing about hate or religion. That's always a big topic, but some don't like to write about that, and that's okay. But it definitely could be written about. And then heaven, just a few ideas. Mother Nature, that's a broad subject. You can write about many things in Mother Nature. Or you can write about insanity. So these are just a few different themes of which you can choose from to write about and that are out there today in the poetry world. So how do we find a theme of a poem? Well, to start with, we want to examine the title of the poem. You definitely do not want to rush through the poem. Sometimes I'll rush through reading and then I'll have to go back and reread what I read in order to understand it. Does anybody do that? Yeah, definitely. So we want to read slowly and read aloud. We want to identify the speaker. What is that speaker trying to tell us? What message is he or she trying to send? And it's really a great idea to make notes of how the poem makes you feel. I've handed out, there's pieces of paper and pencils on your desk, so feel free to make notes at any time throughout the presentation. So you want to ask yourself while you're reading the poem, how are you feeling today? Does this poem make you angry or happy or sad? A lot of different emotions that can go within a poem. So here we are moving on to what is a stanza. It's kind of a fun word to say. And usually a stanza is an arrangement of a certain number of lines, usually 4 or more, but it does not have to be. Here I've provided a couple of examples of stanzas. And really what stanzas are just a fancy name for a paragraph. If you're writing a poem with a rhyme scheme, the stanzas are very helpful in making it easier to read, and it sounds more smooth to the reader's ears. Each stanza explains one idea or explains the idea in more detail. Here we have a couple of examples. So the first one, ABBA rhyming pattern. Let me fetch sticks, let me fetch stones. Throw me your bones, teach me your tricks. Here's the other one. Hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings the tune without the words and never stops at all. Which one do you like best? Yeah, I kind of like them both too. Does anybody have any questions about a stanza? That's great. We have a smart crowd today. So now let's talk about poetic tone. The poet's attitude or opinion about the subject is the poetic tone. It could be loud, quiet, hard, soft, abrupt. The definition of tone is the voice that expresses a particular meaning or feeling of the speaker. For example, my friend told me in a hushed tone that she was throwing a surprise party for our teacher. What do you guys think the tone is in that particular phrase? That's right, quiet, because of that word hushed. So be soft and quiet. The tone of the voice in which you write should be matched to the words too. And as I said just a minute ago, it's a great example above when the friends told her in a hushed tone. And the tone is achieved by setting word choice and other details. So you can do a lot of different things with tone. So this is where it starts getting fun. And so you all want to pay attention to this poem because this will be specifically what you'll be evaluating at the end of the lesson. So does anybody want to read this out loud? Okay, because remember, we're supposed to read it out loud. So apparently we have some shy folks today. Smart, but shy. So I'll go ahead and read. Hope is a thing with feathers. This is a poem by Emily Dickinson. Hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings the tune without the words and never stops at all. And sweetest in the gale is heard, and sore must be the storm that could have bashed the little bird that kept so many warm. I've heard it in the chilliest land and on the strangest sea, yet never in extremity it asked a crumb of me. So that's a great poem, I think. I hope you all like it as well. And on your desk, you also have this poem so that you can reread it if you like in order to do the evaluation, which, as I said, is not very long. So what do you all think hope means in this poem? That's a great observation. Hope can mean a lot of things. So when you're doing your evaluation, there really is no right or wrong answer, but you want to get close to the theme and the questions that are asked. So here's a short inspirational video to help you deep think. I think you'll enjoy it. Well, this is taking a moment. Sorry about that. There we go. So I think that's a great motivational and inspirational video in order to get you motivated to write your own poem and get your mind thinking about different ideas. So here we're going to check for your understanding. So as I mentioned a couple times before, you're going to write your answers on the evaluation worksheet on slide 11 in discussion board or copy and paste onto discussion board. Then you need to write a 4-line poem or more, and hopefully that video gave you some great ideas. And then reply to me with both on the discussion board, as I was mentioning earlier. So in a minute, I'll take you to the evaluation worksheet and just kind of go over that so you know what's on it. Does anybody have any questions so far? All right, perfect. So here's the evaluation worksheet. There's only 10 questions. And the first one is initially, what do you think the title means? And we went over that earlier. So you can go back into the lesson and look at that if you don't remember. What do you think the theme of this poem is? The Emily Dickinson poem. What's the tone of the poem? And then describe 2 different emotions used within the poem. What do you think the author is feeling? Which words reveal this tone? How does this poem impact you or your thoughts? And this could be a variety of thoughts and emotions you may be feeling or having. And this is really just a fun project. There's really no right or wrong answer. We just want to get as close as we can to what we think the poem means and the message that it's trying to send, the author's trying to send. Does the poem have a stanza? We talked about stanzas. Many poems, most poems do have a stanza because that's just an arrangement of lines, right? And if you were to write a poem, what would it be about? This is the fun part. And then write a poem with 4 lines and post to discussion board. And will you continue to write poetry? This is something I'm really interested in finding out because many people don't think about poetry until they have a lesson like this or until they read poetry. There's many different poems out there, so I definitely encourage you all to go on the internet or pick up a great book in the library and expand your horizons. Thank you so much for your time today, students. You've been awesome. Have a great day, and I hope you enjoyed this project.